You encountered an error in your game, and you're now scouring the internet for solutions. Chances are, it's one of these. I'm GameMakerPixel, and here's a guide to common error messages and the common causes for them, and basically how to fix them, so woo. Let's get started. Parser errors. Missing indent. This is the first parser error you're likely to encounter, and it also is a pretty simple fix. And there's actually a few causes for this. So the first one would be, obviously, you're missing an indent. So like this. Another one would be if you put an indent, but you didn't actually put anything. So what if you want to have a function that you'll use later, but you don't want it to actually do anything at the moment? So just type in pass. And that fixes the error. Forgetting a comma or in parenthesis. This is probably another very common error that you'll find, and it's also pretty simple to solve. So, as you can tell, it's usually caused because you have like a mess of random functions within other functions, and that's not very helpful. So try to use some variables to simplify things. But if you do encounter this, a really simple way of figuring out which parenthesis you're missing is to click next to one, and it'll highlight the parenthesis that it matches with. In this case, you can tell that matches to that, and then this matches to that, that matches to that. However, you'll notice that there is no parenthesis lining up with this one. So if you add one to the end, it'll work. However, that may not be exactly what you want, so you might want to go through and look to see what you actually want. There. Undefined variables. One way you could get this error is if you don't actually define the variable, obviously, but if this is not the case, there's a very high chance you define the variable after the usage, or you define the variable in a separate function. That's all for the common parser errors I thought of, anyway. And let's get to the runtime errors. This error is most often caused by people trying to get basically a string. Well, they'll try to get a number from like a text edit or something, and won't realize that that actually gives them back a string, so when they try to add them, it won't work. A nice solution to this is to go int, or float if you're writing decimals, and just do that. And it converts it to an integer, and then they add, and it works perfectly fine. But let's say you're adding two strings in an operator. Note, at least, that that actually adds the strings together and not numbers. Nil errors. These errors can be quite annoying, and you often won't see them coming until they, of course, hit you in the face. The most common cause of these errors is defining the variable, but then not setting it to anything before you combine it or use it in a way. A great way to fix this is to either define it to a value that will still work here, or to add a null check. So do this if blops is not equal to null, then do that. And, well, it won't print anything. Okay, I broke it. That's because and there you go. I misspelled it. That would be a cause. And there you go. It prints nothing because it didn't try to print anything because blops was null, and then it said it later. Of course, if this was a process function, it would eventually begin printing zeros pretty fast, actually. But yeah. So let's say you're trying to get the text edit node. And you're like, text equals who. So that is obviously not going to work. I'm sure you saw what I did. I misspelled it. So that's actually the most common cause of this error, as you saw back here with blops. I just misspelled the variable and it's like, no. And I'm like, but you were supposed to work. So yeah, that's those errors are kind of annoying, but they're also pretty easy to solve. Miscounting arrays. This one is pretty much most common with new programmers because they don't know that when you count an array, it doesn't actually start at 1, it starts at 0. So if I did 1, and I put a second value in there, it would print the second value. But of course, if you only have one value, it can be super confusing because you have no idea what happened. And basically, if you want to print that value, use a 0. Voila. Cyclic reference. This error is very likely to be the error you came looking for a solution to, because if you're on a Mac, you only see, or I guess now, you'll only see this, and you have no idea what the heck just happened. It won't give you any help at all. So, the only difference is it'll say 54 instead of 10,054. But, yeah, it's kind of scary. But this error is basically caused by two scenes running, basically preloading each other. So, preload can cause this too. So basically, if you run either one of these scenes, they won't work, and your game will just flat out quit. So, that one's scary. And this error is basically because when you load scene 1, it has to load scene 2. And to load scene 2, it loads scene 1. To load scene 1, it has to load scene 2. And load 1. And over and over and over again, and it's endless, and that's why it crashes. So, don't do that. But the solution to this is actually quite simple. You really just have to go, instead of using two packed scenes, use string instead. Use the path, basically. So you do that, and then obviously you don't need to get path anymore. And then you just obviously put in whichever ones you need. Here. You can right click on any scene and just get the path, or anything in here actually, and it'll give you the path. So I just got 2, so I can go that, just paste it in there, save, head to the other, get 1, paste, and then you can't actually tell right now, so I'm just gonna put some icons in here, dat, and dat. So just gonna switch between these scenes. I'm using the arrow keys. Well, you can do that now. So that works. That's all the errors I managed to think up for this list today. If you have any more that I didn't cover on this list, paste the error message in the comments below and like your code, and I'll see if I can solve it. And of course, don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you have any recommendations for what I should do next, put them in the comments. So yeah, enjoy the comment section. The comments are nice. They're great. Bye.